In the lab. Yeah.
In the lab, yeah. Do y'all know the number, the room number?
No.
But it's not.
See if you make changes on your
Oh,
syllabus.
is it like 103?
106.
106, yeah. Dante, did you get my email? Okay, do you have it? Let me have it, because once I pass it out, when you get it. Tuesday, 2016. Yeah, that's it. 3, chapter 10. Okay, yeah, pass it to Melanie and then, or give it to you, just come out, yeah. 3, chapter 10, this is going to be MCQ. Usually it's about 10 questions each chapter, and it could be, what was I going to say? Yeah, 10 questions each, but I think on the chapter on GDP, I think you might get 12 questions. Okay, these are all multiple choice questions, and I will send out the instruction Monday night. Okay, the instructions on when you go to the lab, what are some of the things that you should be doing. Okay. Now, we do have a economics tutor. I hope everybody's aware of it. If you need help, you think you're struggling, I'm looking at the homework, like, it seems like you could do it, but some of you, are struggling a little bit, so you might want to talk to me if you have any concern. Well, it is early in the semester. One of the quick way to fail this class is if you're struggling, you're not letting the professor know why it is early in the semester. You waited too late. And so there is still time that you could get, go see Jonathan. He has hours tomorrow. Friday is 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. Does everybody know when you walk outside at the foyer area, you see that TV screen? Oh, I call it TV screen. Behind that screen, that room is BA 113. So that's typically our tutor's room. So I hope you make good use of it. I would have asked him to come in and introduce himself, but he has a class, I think, at this time, so he couldn't do it. And then the other class, same thing, yeah. So there's a conflict with his classes. Therefore, you're not seeing him here. Back to your homework questions. So, yes, questions on Melanie?
So our test on Tuesday is only on chapter 3?
No.
Okay, I thought it was.
3 chapter test.
It's 3, 4, 5.
It's 3, 4, and 5. Okay, I just thought.
This is say 3 chapter test. Meaning total 3 tests. Which chapter?
3, 4, and 5.
Oh, this is how you find out who really knows the stuff. So, and I have also said to you that you have online flash quiz you could practice in advance, not just before the test. I hope you do it this weekend sometime. And some of you may have already done it. And again, the best way to study for this class is right after professor have covered the material you work on it. Now, a lot of time I do this in-class exercise, which I didn't do it the other day because I thought I was running out of time. So I actually have you do it in the class. Once I do one example and then you hand it in, I give you about 5 minutes, that's it. You have to pay attention. So if you're like texting, doing something else, you won't get that 5 minutes. I'll have to re-explain everything. So we do that a lot because a lot of times that helps me to know who's struggling, And that's not like a test or quiz, it's just practice to see if everybody knows how to do certain things. And usually it's quick and dirty. Yeah. Well, I'll give you like short time to complete it and then hand it in, right? So we might still have that today. So you think you're ready to do that? Yeah. Have we not done that before?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we did that one time and I was just copying the graph, right? So at some time I will make you will have to do some thinking. Does everybody has calculator with you today?
Yeah.
Have it ready. And on the day of the test, you definitely want to bring your calculator because you get extra point. You wouldn't see the extra point on your test result, but I put it on the spreadsheet separately. I do not trust the blackboard to do the calculation for me. think there's errors of some decimal point, 2 decimal places, yeah, so I don't like it. I do my own calculation in spreadsheet. Okay, which chapter are we on? It's student 5, okay. Well, it's a good thing that it's student 5, because right after chapter 5, then you have your test. So again, I have explained to some of you, I think everybody pretty much in this class will be on the first day. Well, except for Shanice and Shanahan and maybe one other person. So, but it's on the syllabus, okay? So the online flash quiz is a good practice to get used to questions. It's not gonna be exactly the same. Like I said before, that I tend to like to ask more application questions on the test. And this will be very similar to when you read the textbook, like when you see this thing that say concept check, 5.2, concept check, 5.3, that's a good one to stop and do the exercise. Because this pretty good, my test is kind of like similar to that. I hope that's a good hint for you. Not gonna be exactly the same, but mainly application. Okay, I think we talked about, we were somewhere here, weren't we? Oh yeah, we talked about Boskin. That was where I stopped, right? So this is the last slide, correct? I know, so I'm waiting for y'all to confirm. I had an SI who sit in my class who tell me exactly which slide I stopped. Okay, this is the one that I think I stopped. We talk about how to calculate the nominal wages. We talk about indexing. Okay, so for the, okay, I can go over this one more time before I get to the next one. So for this chapter, some of the things that you need to know, this is about inflation, is what is the difference between nominal versus real? So what is it in your own term? Raise your hand if you want to. Do it. Say it. Try it. What's the difference between this? The concept of like a nominal value versus real value. What's the difference? Miss Andre, do you want to try that? No? Say it in your own word. You should know that because we covered it in the chapter on GDP and then now again. You're welcome to look up in the book. It's okay. If you're fast enough. So Nick, do you know the answer to that? What's the difference between that, the two? Yes.
So nominal is the time measured in current dollar value, and then real is measured in the physical terms.
Yeah, that doesn't mean much to a lot of people. But if you just very quickly want to point out, yeah, you're right, okay, that's by definition. This one we look at physical value, this one we look at the physical volume based on base year. We talked about base year last time. Okay, and nominal value is based on current year value. But really, to make it very simple, everybody, so you would always remember, because in all this time you won't remember what you just read, although this is a correct definition. The difference between the two is this one, you have taken into account, right, this is good. You have taken into account what?
Inflation.
Very good. Inflation. This is all the exercise we did the other day. We talked about real income, real wages, how your nominal wages could keep going up, but when you come to the real wages, they're the same. 40 years later, you're on the same real wages. What an eye-opening. So, and then the other thing that you absolutely need to know for this chapter is the difference between, I'm trying to give you pointers here. Deflating, let's see if you get it, because that wasn't too long ago. They're not the same. This sign means, in math means they're not the same. It's not equal. Deflating is not equal to deflation. Somebody explain what is deflation? Anybody? Okay, Miss Shaw, Margaret.
The economy.
I'm sorry?
You said deflation?
Deflation,
State
yes.
of the economy?
It's what?
It's the state of the economy?
Okay, state of the economy. At what state? Be a little bit more specific. That's a good starting point, the state of the economy. How? What? A little bit more specific here. Yes. Miss Hammonds, did you raise your hand?
No.
Okay. Zach, do you think you know the answer to that one? The state of the economy, yes, but how? What? Inflation is below zero, which is something in, that's in Nancy, negative. We talked about Great Depression, didn't we? We did this exercise the other day, didn't we? When you have negative inflation, you see, when you do exercise, you have better ideas in class. So deflation means you have negative inflation. Yes.
So, okay, I wrote it down from last class. The deflation is the negative state of the economy, then? Or
No, it's a state of the economy means like
the negative.
what state is no state of the economy is a general term.
Oh, okay.
So deflation, we have not complete the sentence yet. It is a state of the economy, comma. That is when you have negative inflation. As opposed to what is deflating? Now, your definition will become very clear to everybody. What is deflating? Come on, you can read your notes. Come on, I'm waiting. Daniel, you got it? No? Yes, Meredith?
It's when you're converting a nominal value to a real value.
Very good. It's a process. It's not a state of the economy. This is a process in which you try to convert a nominal value into a real value. How do you do that? We did a lot of exercise the other day. By dividing the nominal value by CPI. Very good. Now you're with me. You okay? Destiny, right?
Yeah.
You have any question?
No.
Okay. Sure?
Yes.
Okay. See, I could also look at your body language and ask you questions. Yeah. That's called interactive, you know? I mean, don't you love that? Yeah, so you see, back to Margaret's definition. So this is about the state of the economy. That is when you have negative inflation out there. This is not the state of the economy. This is a process of converting a nominal value into a real value when you take into account inflation. Okay, one more step. Deflating. Well, this is good. This is like nutshell, you know. So you will appreciate this, what I just said, next week when you see your exam questions. Never mind. Deflating is not the same as indexing. What's the difference? You're learning that now. We talk about indexing. We talk about deflating. So they're both process. But indexing means, remember I gave the example when you sit across the negotiation table with your future boss. You know, you're going to come up with this like, you read in the Wall Street Journal already that inflation is going to go up in the next few months by, say, 5%. Remember my number, 5%. So when you sit across the table with your boss, you're going to act very intelligent, that you have taken ECN 2030, you are a knowledgeable economic student, or at least previously, but now you still have that knowledge. You're going to come out and say, well, how about indexing my wage contract? Your boss may not know what is indexing. Would you explain that to me? What the heck that is? And then now you got the joy to explain it. So indexing means you take into account my wage contract, the future inflation. If you don't, you lose. Right? Because inflation 5%, 3 months later, you find that you go to McDonald's, Instead of having a Big Mac that's a steak, now it's oops, like that. That's one way to do inflation, you know, and when you go out and pump your gas, the next time you realize that it's $4 per gallon. Nobody likes that. We're happy with where it is now, right? I mean, the price is great. What was that? Yesterday I was in Sam's Club. I think it was $1.65. I think I said it right. $1.65 per gallon. That's great. That's wonderful. It's just like all time low. So take it, receive it. I mean, like enjoy it while you still have it. So when you tell your boss, you say, "Well, how about indexing it?" So indexing means, like this example say, I know you're picky. It's coming. Don't worry. You got it. You got it. I got it. Okay, so this means that if inflation goes up, say by 5% each year, by looking at the price index, I'm re-explaining this, even though I had explained this before. So if you have 3 years here and inflation rate goes up by 5% each year, that's 0.05, right? And you want to do some sort of indexing because you know about this thing called indexing. You say, well, since we know inflation is going to go up by 5% each year, why don't we do something about wages now? So your boss say, well, we cannot do exactly 5%. That is a very big increase. Do you know that? Okay, back and forth, you negotiate, and finally you settle with 2%. Okay, I mean, good enough. You know, at least you got some increase, not exactly quite. You will never get exactly 5%, I can tell you, because that's just an estimate. It's usually lower than 5. Okay, so let's say 2%. So what it is you want to know if you want your real wages to grow by 2% each year. So if you use your calculator, you could see that from 12 to 1224, that's an increase of 24 cents, because 24 cents is basically 2% of that 12. 2 times 12, 24, so 24 cents increase, and then the next year is another 24 cents increase, so you got 48, somewhere there. So if you use a calculator, you're a little bit more exact. So these are the real wages that you would like to receive. But today, when you sit across the table with your boss, how much should you be getting? So then we calculate, this is the one that you calculate, okay? So again, go back to that formula. I'm going to erase everything except for the last one. You know, you'll need to be taking notes because I already had a test with one of my class. I realized that a lot of things I said in the class, they didn't get it. Except for this student who take notes. They go back and look at their notes and say, oh yeah, I think you said this. It's amazing. About 40 students who get it, then, you know, the other 60% didn't get it. So if you have to move your seat to sit closer so you pay more attention, do it. It's worth it. Okay, so let's come back to this. So let's look at this deflating process. Means, first of all, if you have a real value, let's just say real wages. Give it a go. So this will be taking your nominal wages divided by CPI. In high school math, that will be A is equal to B divided by C. So, if you want your answer to be B in your high school math, how do you get it?
Multiply A and C.
You will take A multiplied by C to get B. So back to here, so that's the same thing. If you want to find out what your nominal wages would be, when you actually dropped your contract, you would take
Real value
real value
times CPI.
wages, that is multiplied by CPI. And that's exactly what we're doing here. So everybody say it. So remember the base year, the year that you start off. Students like to use the term base off. Yeah, that's a term that you like to use. So your nominal and real wages values are the same in the base year. And then look what happened, $12.85. How do we get this? We take 12.24 times 1.05 to get that bigger number. So you see, your nominal wages should be higher. So then because you're multiplying by a bigger number, more than one, so then you have a higher number there, $13.73. Everybody get it? So you should know how to calculate both ways depending on what is giving to you. So, that is indexing. Now you know the difference? Okay, let me give you one more point of view. It's gonna be on your test. So if you get in or not, I don't know. Here's a chance. So deflating is you are looking backward. What do I mean by looking backward? Because remember, in the case of deflating, we take we want some kind of base year. Base year usually is based on historical year previously. Okay, that are free from any economic disturbances such as high recession, high unemployment rate, high inflation rate. You want to stay away from September 11th year, 2001. You want to stay away from 2007, 2008, when the Great Recession started. You want to stay away from Great Depression year, 1929 onward. So deflating is sort of like looking backward concept. How about indexing? This is the one that you look forward. Make sense? Who cares about your previous salary? History is gone. You care about tomorrow. What would you eat? What would you earn to provide for your family? Right? When am I going to graduate? When am I going to earn that big bucks out there? Instead of just be satisfied with a high school diploma. Well, that's why you're here today, correct? You're not happy with this high school diploma. You say, I want something better. Yes, I have a right to have a better wages. Come on. So you are working towards that goal now. So you're looking forward in the future. My nominal wages, I would like for it to be that, right there. So there. So this is like looking forward, yeah. Now this one is looking backward. Yeah, well, what is that? Oh my goodness, looking back in? Nobody's saying any word. It's okay to correct the professor. I will be delighted. Thank you. Okay, so let's go to the next one. I would like to introduce Boskin report. Boskin, what a nice name. Who is he? Previous economists. We like to name them by their last name. So, Boskin report, there's a commission set up according to this economist's name, Boskin. And according to this particular report, it says that the CPI overestimates, that is, inflation by as much as 1 to 2% points a year. Do you think that's pretty serious? What do you think? Is that bad or is that not too bad? Okay, never mind. A, very bad. B, not too bad. How many of you say A? This class is not responding. Okay, let me restate again. So if this is a case, right, do you think that's pretty bad? If you overstate inflation by, say, 1 to 2%? Okay, that's pretty bad, yes. You know why? Because remember I said the last class that inflation in this country usually is below 10%. Okay, so now during that first oil shock, I told you that story. Remember the oil embargo from this Western alliance against this Arab League nation when they attacked the nation of Israel. So that was in the early 70s. So, and if you go back and look at this chart, right, it is, you have it. Page 71, your figure 5.1. Somebody tell me, so you know I know you're thinking. So I'd like to hear some of your voices. Tell me during the first oil shock, what do you think approximately by looking at the diagram was the inflation rate? How about Jonathan back there? What do you think? How many percent do you think it is? By just looking at the graph. Sorry? About 12%? Okay, I mean pretty close, maybe 13. Well, what about the next one? The next oil shock in the late 70s. What do you think this one? You got your book? Look at Nick's book here. Nick doesn't have a book too? Okay, I don't have it here, so grab Jonathan's book or somebody's book, yeah. What do you think?
What was the question?
13.
Yeah, about 13, maybe 14% somewhere there.
Yeah.
You agree? Sure? Now that you see the page, yeah, we'll know where it is. Okay, so it's pretty serious to have something above 10%, right? So this is pretty serious. Can you imagine if Obama goes to all these G9 nations meeting, and then he start getting up on the podium and say, well, guess what? America has an inflation rate of 8%. And he has overestimated it by, say, 2%. It's really 6%. You know, that's a big deal. What's the problem? Here it is. It would unnecessarily increase the government spending because you want to adjust for that inflation. Now you are putting aside too much budget to correct for it. What's so bad about it? If you get too much to one sector, then you take away from another sector. 20 million here, more is 20 million less there, correct? Okay, underestimating the improvement in the standards of living. Inflation, have you all heard this term? I'm sure you have. In the media or, just common sense thing, cost of living. How many of you have seen that term before today? Well, that should be everybody in this class because we did this, we used that term not long ago in this class. Cost of living is actually referring to your inflation. So very soon, so don't be idle. Very soon you will be, I think in a week or so, I will be asking you to please tell me which project you want to do. So there's a project that's titles, and usually what I do is I do it on a first come first served basis. That is, you can only have 2 students doing the same topics, depending on how many I have. Yeah, roughly around 2.5 students. Even it out. Some 2, some 3. I know, we can have 2.5. I'm trying to be exact, yeah. So some topics you may have 2, some topics you may have 3. So that's on a first come first served basis, right? And you can't just tell me verbally. You have to send me an email because a lot of time when I get that verbally, and then 3 weeks later the student came back and say, Professor, what did I tell you the other day? I said, I don't know. How should I know? How would I know which topic you picked? So I need for it to be email so we both can open our eyes, look at that, open up the email and say, you got inflation. And usually if you ask me that, I send back and say, you got it. If you didn't hear from me, that means there's some problem. Maybe the topic is taken and then I'll come back and ask you to choose a different one. So if you want to do that ahead, by all means, no problem. Okay, so you might underestimate the improvement in the standards of living. Standard of living, we cover that, and to some extent, cost of living. They're not the same thing. Cost of living is talking about inflation. Okay, and standards of living, which is a popular topic, is talking about economic growth. And this economic growth is actually in chapter 7. So I think today might be a good day to talk about the topic. Let me see here. Oh boy. See, today is February the 8th. No, we're not there yet. Oh, we're so slow. We're in week 3. This is the end of week 3. Boy, I'm thinking so much ahead, which is good because you should be thinking that way. 2 causes of the CPI overestimating. So what's wrong if you have this so-called overestimation? Okay, so yeah, so go back to Obama's example. So when he was giving that speech to the G9 nations, he's telling, oh yeah, the USA now has 8% inflation. And then, if you compare to other developed countries, you could see that 8% is very high because we all know that inflation takes away the value of our money. How you tried to say it the other day, right, James, right? Mr. Baraka, is that how you say your name?
Mercola,
I'm sorry?
Mercola.
Oh yeah, there's an L there, Barcolo. Okay, very good. So, so we were talking about that, and then if you went online and tell, or on TV, tell everybody, and overestimate the Americans, inflation by mistake, then you compare to other more developed countries, actually you are to some extent underestimating the improvement in the standard of living in USA. So you see, these are the key thing when you do your project. You have to come back to this key question that you ask. A lot of time you get lost in the details and then you forget where is that big picture. So the big picture is important. Okay, so what are the two causes of CPI overestimating or inflation? One is quality adjustment bias. Second one is substitution bias. Now I think everybody is familiar with what exactly is quality adjustment. Okay, basically quality adjustment, I think I gave that example some time ago. Like for example, how many of you in this class does not have a cell phone? Raise your hand. Nobody. If my son is here, he will raise his hand. Some people don't like cell phone. Well, in fact, he didn't start using cell phone till when he was 16. When I got him an iPhone, but before that he said, Mom, I don't need it, take it back. Because he reads, he doesn't use a cell phone. He reads so much, his bookshelf is bigger than mine. So there's some advantages of that, but he's catching up very quick with technology, everything. Okay, so let's go back to this. So most of you have cell phone today. In fact, everybody in this class, including myself, has a cell phone. But if you ask students 20 years ago, how many of you have cell phone? Nobody raised their hand. Well, yeah, I don't count this thing, what you call the prepaid one. I don't even know what you call what was the word you used on Meredith the other day?
Track phone.
Melanie, I'm sorry, track phone. Okay. I never heard that term. Okay. So anyway, yeah. Now the quality of the cell phone you used 20 years ago compared to what you use today, which one's better? Today. Today you have something called 4G, right? Mm-hmm. Or you have 5G now. Which one? We still at 4G? Okay, thank you. Yeah. What about PlayStation, what is it now? 4. See, all my students know. I used to say PlayStation 2 and then they all burst out laughing. I said, what's the problem? Well, see, you're laughing because you know what I'm talking about. The latest one is PlayStation 4. When was the PlayStation Station 2? Was it like about a long time ago? How long?
Like elementary school.
If I may ask. Like 10 years?
10 years, like maybe.
That bad? That
I'm
bad?
like older.
Don't they do it every year, like 1, 2, 3?
No.
No.
Oh, so this is a big jump, okay. Not like iPhone, you keep having like 5 and 6 and 7, keep going. Okay, like Windows 8, what is that now? 10, okay, I'm sorry, yeah. 10. Okay, so the quality today is not the same as what it was before. It's a lot better. Agree? How many of you remember internet dial-up?
I know what it is.
What's wrong with that? Oh, you know what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Is that fast?
Was that like when you couldn't talk
You
on
have
the
to
phone
dial the
and
modem.
internet at the
The
same
very
time?
first one that came out was about
hated
24 bits, kilobits per second. That was so slow. You could hear it dialing. And then when you get the
I
website,
used to stay on the phone. I could never get on the internet.
you hit the page. You have to go to sleep, wake up in the morning, you see the next page. Right? It's been, that's slow. Traffic congestion, internet traffic congestion, because the technology was not so good back then. Now you have very high quality, what they call broadband, right? Well, in fact, I still have internet dial-up about 5 years ago in my area.
Oh.
Yeah, some of you may still, still may have that same problem. They call it the last mile problem. Anybody who's in telecoms business? Computer science major, anybody?
Mm-hmm.
Have y'all heard about the last mile problem?
No.
Yes? No? I live in that section of area there. my neighbors, my last neighbor, I'm about the third house on the, same street. My last neighbor, the one at the corner of that intersection, happened to be a police sheriff or something, deputy sheriff, I think. He got internet connection. He got broadband, but then my neighbor next to him didn't have. We didn't have. We had dial-up. Because the last mile problem is very common. They would say things like, well, yeah, we can only stretch this far, and then we go in that direction. We're not coming this way. So that's it, you're left out. So over the years, because it's more expensive to expand it this way, so they decide to expand it that way. So it leaves out some people, to cut a long story short. And so now I think they are trying to take care of that problem. So anyway, now cell phone coverage you have today is a lot better than it was 20 years ago. Now when you compute CPI, right, back to the question, we're still in economics, everybody. We're still talking about inflation. So when you calculate that CPI, remember you have this basket of same goods and services. So if you include hamburger like 20 years ago and today, more or less it tastes the same. Maybe a little bit change in the size. But then when you talk about technology like cell phone, it's not the same. There is a quality bias that's not taken into consideration. For example, you look at PC. So, okay, if you go out and buy a PC that says 20% more memory, of course you pay 20% more roughly, higher price. So this is not the same PC as the one with less memory. So has there any inflation in PC's price? In this case, the answer is no, because you charge a higher price, but better quality. You got more chips and RAM chip, faster chips in it. So yeah, it's worth it to pay that more, that much higher. But if you can't afford it, then you just be happy with lower memory. Consumers are paying 20% more for PC. They're also getting a 20% better PC. So that's the point there. So there is some difficulty in adjusting quality because there are so many goods out there people consume other than cell phone, hamburgers, your renters, and what else? Your clothing, your movie, entertainment. There are a lot more consumptions out there that we don't know. May not include everything. For example, TV subscription to this cable TV, that could be one that a lot of people use. So we should include it in that standard basket of goods, which we talk about it in our very first or second slide of this chapter, which will constitute and contribute towards calculating your CPI. Because CPI is an index. Remember, it's always like 1 or 1 point something or less than 1, it's a small number. So there are a lot of goods out there. So there is something like a little bit subjective sometimes, especially over the years, it's a big quality change. Incorporating new goods is very difficult because you didn't have history. So I don't know how they do the cell phone, but at some point they introduce cell phone into the basket of goods and services because everybody has cell phone. But like if you go back even further, 40 years ago, only the military people have cell phone. Well, walkie-talkie, but that's sort of like before cell phone. They had it back then, but then it's very exclusive for military use only. Okay, so since there is no base year price for this year's new goods, so you run into some problem like that. Then the second, so because of that, inflation tends to be overstated. Number one, because of quality adjustment bias. So I hope you pay attention. This is also in your book, and there will be a question on that on your test. I don't know why I'm telling you this. I hope you get it. Okay. Next, we want to talk about the second bias known as substitution bias. Everybody know what is substitution. Substitution. In chapter 3, we talk about Coke and Pepsi being a good substitute with one another. Remember that? Okay. So substitution bias, and in order to demonstrate this particular concept or idea, let's look at one example. In this example, we're going to look at 3 goods. Coffee and tea and scones. Does everybody know what scones is? Mm-hmm. Like English muffin? Do they use the term scones here? In Starbucks? They do? Okay. I keep thinking that's a British term. Okay. So you got 2 years here, 2010 is your base year and 2015 is current year. So what happened is with this, the price of coffee in 2010 being $1 per cup, so let's say consumption is 50. So 50 times 1, you got 50. But in year 2015, it's gone up to $2 per cup. So the price has doubled, and so now you take $2 times the same number of goods, quantity, excuse me, you got 100. So everybody okay with that simple calculation so far? Move on to the next object, tea. Same thing as coffee, 50 cups at $1 per cup. So in 2015, it's gone up to, oh, price has not changed. How nice. Good news for tea drinker. Okay, so in 2015, that price stays the same for tea, not for coffee. So, okay, so we got the same number, 50-50. And then in the case of scones, we say $1 per piece. So if you buy 100, it would be $100. And in 2015, it's gone up by 50%. So now it's $1.50. So then you take $1.50 multiplied by 100, you should get 150. So this is very similar to calculation like what we may ask you to calculate on your test. So you add this up and add this up. This is 200, this is 300. Okay, so let's calculate inflation or CPI between these 2 years. What we do is we take the big number, 300 divided by 200. Or you could take 100 divided by 200, which is a change between the two, and which is half. So then 1.5 or 50% higher. So in other words, the CPI has gone up by 50% between 2010 and 2015. So what's the point here? That's a big jump, isn't it? You think so? I think so, yes.
So, just for a definition,
Yes.
is substitute bias basically when a substitute good?
Okay, I think I will get to that. Let me do the other because I'm not complete yet.
Okay.
Okay, let me do that example and see if that will answer your question.
Okay.
Thank you. So now, I haven't got to the substitution part. I'm just setting the stage right now here. But I'm glad you mentioned it, so that's coming. So now, if you introduce substitution bias, and look at these people who are drinking tea here, and this is the same price, okay, for tea and coffee in 2010. So now, in 2015, there are some people who look out there and say, whoa, wait a minute, look at that. The price of a cup of coffee has gone up by 100%. 5 years ago, it was only $1 per cup, and now it's like $2. You say, I'm going to have to give up coffee. There are some people who think that way. They're not quite die-hard coffee drinkers, so they give up coffee. They substitute for tea. Okay? So if people do that, if let's just say everybody is like that, they all switch to drinking tea, what do you think will happen with this number up here? I'm waiting. If everybody switched to drinking tea,
It'll go down.
well, very specific, that would be? I'm waiting for a number. If everybody switched to drinking tea, what number would that up there be?
It'd be 0. If everybody switch, it'd be 0.
Oh, very good, thank you. It would be 0, yes. You are thinking, thank you. That's it, because then it's 0 cups, right? 0 cups for multiplied by $2 is 0. Now what about down here? Since we got the first one correct, what about down here? If everybody who were previously coffee drinker now switch to tea, so how many cups of tea do we have now? I'm sorry?
If it was 100 there, then it'd be 150.
Yeah, so it'll be 100 cups of tea now, because if everybody, all 50 coffee drinkers switch to drinking tea, it would be 100 cups. 100 cups times the old price 50, this will be 150. Very
So
good.
it's $2 a cup. That's why.
150, is that right?
Okay.
No.
Wait.
It's 100.
I get it.
Oh yeah, that's $1, so it'll be 100.
Yeah.
Okay. I know you're a little bit confused. Here's a number. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so the first one is zero. See, I want to talk to you about it because when you see this IE, we know. So it's better I ask you for you give me the answer, you think about it, and then I show you the number. So for coffee is 0 because all these coffee drinkers switch to drinking tea. So now we got 100 cups of tea, still at that $1 because price has not changed, so we got 100. So at about 250. It's really not that bad. Look, now you take 250 divided by 200, you only have 25% increase. Compared to before, you had 50% of increase. So, well, basically this example is telling you that with substitution, really the inflation is not really that bad. Look, you got 25%. But before we didn't take into account, it's not so real like this example here. Because, surely there'll be some people, maybe not so drastic like everybody switch to drinking tea. Okay, it could be like, 50-50 or it could be 30-70 or 60-40. We don't know. But so this is not real. This is overestimating. If you do not take into consideration substitution, you could overestimate. Substitution of consumption good. Consumer habits. Then you could end up having a higher inflation. So this is asking you to be careful. So to summarize everything I've said so far, according to the Boston Commission, you say inflation is being highly overestimated by 1 to 2% point. We all agree that that is a lot due to two kinds of biases. Number one, tell me. Quality adjustment bias. Number two, substitution bias. Think you could handle that question on the test? Yeah, I just gave it to you. Okay, so let's look at the difference between what is price level and what is relative price. So let's look at this in your book on page, if you find it, tell me the page number. Page 79. Got it? Okay, there is a difference when you read in your textbook, the difference, not so much in chapter 3, but from this chapter onward, especially in this chapter. When you use the term, price level, we're talking about overall general price. Okay, for example, when you say inflation has gone up, you're not looking at just one particular industry like gas industry or food industry or chicken industry. You're looking at everything in all the sectors. You have computer industry, agricultural industry, mineral industry, banking industry, education, healthcare, everything. So there it is, a measure of the overall. The term overall should be underlined or highlighted. Or prices at a particular point in time measured by a price index such as the CPI. So that's what we're talking about. Inflation measures a composite or aggregate of average, it's a better term, of all the prices out there in the economy. So it's not just one particular sector, but the term relative price is talking about only one sector. For example, how many of you have heard about this avian flu? They had it around not long ago. How many of you had avian flu before? I shouldn't ask that. Yeah, you don't even know what it is. What is avian flu? Something to do with this thing that flies. Thank you. So when you have avian flu, people are scared of eating turkey. Chicken, yes. Chicken is a bird. Thank you. I think I know that. I hope everybody knows that. So, especially chicken, because you don't eat turkey so often, but Christmas and Thanksgiving, right? Does everybody eat turkey every day? Actually, I do. Yeah, every morning. What's wrong?
How you eat turkey in the morning?
Yeah, I do. I mean, not like a big meal, not like a big turkey, but the turkey breast.
Egg, turkey.
Just one piece and 2 eggs. That's it. That's my breakfast. Yeah.
Bacon in there?
A piece of cinnamon, oh gosh, cinnamon raisin, what's that thing called? Bagels, yeah. Oh, it tastes so good, especially if it's warm. Is this a bad time to talk about food?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Okay, so back to this. Relative price is talking about one particular industry. For example, during the avian flu, people are afraid to eat chicken. So they all chicken out. Right? They don't want to eat chicken. So if let's just say it's like that for 3 months. Let's just say 6 months. At the end of that 6 months, you're so starved for chicken meat. So during the avian flu period, what do you think would be the price of chicken? Up or down?
Down.
Down because nobody wants it. Don't you dare to buy it. Your mother would tell you, over the phone, like, don't you dare. Are you eating chicken today? Chuck it. No chicken soup also. Nah, I'm kidding. Okay, so you stay away from chicken, let's say, for 6 months. So the price of chicken goes down during this period because it suffers. So this farmers, this thing out there in Shannon, the chicken producing farm, they suffer. The price goes down. What after 6 months, right? Everything recovers. And people are so starved from not having chicken. They all go out, rush to Food Lion and buy the chicken. What do you think is the price of chicken at that point? High, very high, yes. So this case of price coming down because of shortages or because of avian flu, and then it goes back up because everybody start buying chicken. It's known as relative price. It only affects that particular industry, the chicken industry, the farmers. Okay, so the price of the specific good or service in comparison to the prices of other goods and services calculated as a ratio. So this is not the same as the inflation, the overall, the general price level. Because you could have, here, suppose we have a one-time doubling of gas price. So the overall price level inflation might increase by a small amount, but the increase in relative price of the gasoline is large. In other words, you would have the same thing with chicken industry. You have this price fluctuation, drastic coming down and going up. This is not inflation. Why? Because this is only affecting the chicken farmers and people who love chicken so much and can stay away from chicken maybe. So, but overall, other economies, we still go on as usual. Life goes on. You just eat beef. Right? Is that okay? Or you just eat, what are some of them? Oh yeah, fish. Frogs? Did someone say frogs?
I said pork.
What did y'all say?
Pork.
Oh, pork, yes. How can I forget? That's ham. Yeah, okay. Pork with ham, yeah. Are they good? How do we get frog into the
Chewy.
no frogs, yeah.
Nope.
But sometimes people want variety, after a while it's like, oh, chicken, it's just beef and same thing, right? Beef and pork and what else out there? You want variety sometimes for your taste buds.
There's lamb.
Anyway, so that's not the same as saying a general price level. So let's look at example here. Relative price once again. In the summertime, these are the things that command higher prices. Like if you go to this hotel in Myrtle Beach, prices will be higher because everybody wants to stay by the beach, And if you go to any of those cruises, they will be higher, and gas prices will be higher in the summertime. Why is that?
People traveling.
People travel more, yes, makes sense. Have you ever wondered why beach hotels, well, let's see, I was going to talk about Myrtle Beach a little bit, see how observant you are. Why did they paint all these beach houses bright color? What do you think? Does everybody know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Near the beach.
Like if you're right in Lumberton, can you paint your house purple? Can you paint your house like aqua green? Well, actually, there's no rule. There are certain places like apartment, they make regulations like that you cannot paint your house purple or pink. What's wrong with that? It's a city ordinance. Sometimes you say you devalue the price. of the property around the area, because this is hippies. Well, some people would argue that way. But in the beach area, Murder Beach, okay, you said it's okay. You could have all the fun colors you want. You could have pink, and you could, in fact, you see pink house, apartment for rent, and purple, all this pastel color, yellow. Right, have y'all seen that?
Yes.
Okay, so it's okay by the beach because, that's how you attract people. I mean, like colorful, more fun, and people will start knocking on the door and say, how much is your rent? And that's the time to jerk up the price, the summertime, because that's when all the activities are going. People want to go to the beach and have fun. What about all these prices, heating oil? Yeah, we don't have winter. It's summertime, so these prices will be low. And okay, with fruit and vegetables, you grow a lot of that. So there's abundance of that. So in the summertime, you tend to have lower prices. So this is telling you the some examples of what exactly is relative price. So further example about relative price here, we look at 3 years, 2010 all the way to 2012. We have CPI that goes up by, here's about 8%, okay, correct? No, 12%. And from here to here is about 8%. So, no, wait, it's not 12%, sorry. It's 10% because $1.20, 10% of that is 1.2, right? So that's how you get that. So you add that to 1.2 cents, so that's how you get at 1.32. Okay, so from here to here, the inflation has gone up by 10% from 2010 to 2011. And then the next set of year 2011 to 2012, if you use your calculator, you should be able to figure out, take 8 percentage of 1.32, that would be 6%. Okay, so inflation has come down, but if you look at the oil prices, it remains the same for those years, 8%, 8%. And if you look at the change in relative price of oil, that will be -2, meaning that it's 2% lower than the general inflation price. However, when you look at 2012, when inflation is lower than the gas prices, so we say that the ratio, the change is 2% higher. So just to tell you the example of what's the difference. So here's the gist. This is the bottom line. If you didn't get anything about what I said so far, be sure you understand this slide. Okay, so all this is saying that, oh yeah, you could have these changes in relative prices, up and down. Chicken industry, beach houses, renters, prices of fruits and vegetables, seasonal prices, or the price of gas, for example. All this could go up and down. But it doesn't necessarily affect the whole economy, because economy consists of a lot of sectors. You're just talking about one small sector, although gas is considered a big one. Most of you would agree. So changes in relative price do not necessarily imply there's a significant amount of inflation. So what if chicken price goes up? Doesn't mean we have inflation, because it only affects one industry. Inflation can still be high without affecting relative prices. You see the difference? A lot of time it does affect relative prices, but it doesn't have to. To counteract relative prices, the changes in this kind of relative prices, government policy would have to affect the market for specific goods. Wow. We call that microeconomic policy. This is what this line, the third bullet point, is saying. So if you want to help the farmers, chicken farmers, with this kind of price fluctuation, who should take care of it? The government, the Department of Agriculture, maybe, should have the policy, maybe. Maybe they'll buy out all the chickens during the avian flu period and ship it to a third world country and call it dumping. Have you ever heard that term? Mm. Yeah, okay, so maybe the government would do that. Is that ethical or not? That's not the question, but the economic justification for dumping. Although you could argue the other way. What if these people get problem because of avian flu. It could be they get nothing wrong, but they get help, you see? To counteract inflation, because it's just a fear, people had when they came to certain kind of like epidemic, like avian flu. Now, the next point, which is probably the most important thing that I would say up to this point with all the 3 classes of work we've done, to counteract inflation, the government must use monetary and fiscal policy. Okay, the last 4 bullet point is talking about macroeconomic policy. You see the difference between the two? This one deals with certain market, certain industry, like chicken industry, or the gas industry, or the beach houses industry, they rented during the summer months. This is a serious one. This one has 2 sub-bullet points. One is called fiscal policy. The next one is called monetary policy. We will study this in chapter 11. This is a very extremely important chapter. And we'll study this in chapter 12. And basically in this syllabus we talk about Keynesian, very famous economist policy. So when you talk about fiscal policy, the dealing with government expenditure, let me just use short form, G versus tax. T stands for tax, G stands for government expenditure. When you talk about monetary policy, you talk about interest rate. These are the tools that you use to affect the monetary and fiscal policy. So be sure, this is a very, very quick, very early preview of what is to come. So these 2 chapters here are probably the most important chapters in ECN 2030. And you notice that on the syllabus, I make these 2 chapters and along with 13 and maybe chapter 10, mandatory, meaning that you cannot drop any of these tests out county, because if you take a ECN 2030 or macroeconomic class and you have not learned this, then you have not learned macroeconomics. Okay, what are some of the true causes of inflation? I want to finish this up. There's some noise in the price system because a lot of time you expect, if you go out to McDonald's and buy a hamburger, you expect if you pay $2.50 for a Big Mac, that it will reflect the value, truly, efficiency. If not, it will reduce the efficiency of the market system. For example, your income tax system allows for indexing to CPI, and that's good for you. Because if you earn like $80,000 a year, or okay, $40,000 a year, let's just say, you will be asked to pay, let's say, 15%. That's your nominal value, nominal income. So now you should know the difference. But if you take into consideration the real value, you might be at a lower level, which is 10%. Is that good? I think so. So in other words, the current US IRS system does take into account inflation. It indexes your income tax bracket. So otherwise you have this problem called bracket creep. Creep into the next level, higher. You don't want it higher, you want it lower, but with the real value, you won't have that problem. Okay, they took care of one problem, but they didn't take care of another problem. Capital depreciation, it's not indexed. You want it to be indexed, so you reflect inflation. Capital depreciation is like if you buy a new tractor, $10,000. First year you buy it, and then the next 5 to 10 years you could depreciate it, you could get deduction. But that's only good if it is, again, indexed, truly reflect the real value instead of the nominal value. The last one, you don't have it so much in this country, but in the Latin American countries in the 80s, you have that problem. In the 80s, it was this Latin American economic crisis, very famous. All the pesos in South American countries, a lot of them will affect them, lose their value. Okay, so some of the banks, businesses, they send their employees to the bank every hour or every 2 hours. Why? To put money in, because if they don't, they lose the value. So we don't have that problem. The inflation was not that bad in the US that requires us to do that. So that's trying to economize your holding on of the cash. Okay, lastly, we say inflation has some consequences. It would affect how you work, how you save, how you invest, because you plan for your future. Graduation, you plan to buy, to get married, have a family, you plan to buy a house, and so forth. Now, there's unexpected redistribution of wealth. Now, who are the winners and losers of inflation? You write this down. This one, I'll draw you a quick table. Okay, so we got winner and we got loser of inflation. And this is sad. So we have two groups of people. If you work for your bosses, you are the employees. And employers, so who's gonna lose out during inflation? So basically what happened is the workers lose out. Because when you receive your wages, it has lost its value. This is your employee. So in other words, we say redistribution of wealth from workers and employees is wages are not indexed to inflation. A lot of times you're not. Okay, from lenders to borrowers. Who are the lenders? The lenders are the bankers. Oh, this is the one, yeah, they're the one who moves out this time, so the bankers. Okay, and that's us borrowers. A lot of us, when you buy a house, a home, you take out mortgages, loans from the bank, and when you pay for your mortgages each month, let's say $1,000 per month, when the bank got your money, the value has gone down. So they are the losers. But remember that this is unexpected. If it just suddenly happened, the bank didn't have, they were caught by surprise. They didn't have time to adjust. But if it is expected, you know that the bank is always one step ahead of us. So let's look at this equation. I equals to I minus pi. And I is nominal interest rate, pi is inflation. R is a real interest rate. So basically what this is saying is that, let me write this down. That should be in your book. I want to look at the next one. Let's look at this example here. If you look at the real interest rate, you take nominal interest rate minus inflation. So this is inflation, this is nominal interest rate. This is how you get the number by taking this number minus that. So you see that there were 2 years you have two negative real interest rate. And those 2 years happen to be during the first and second oil crisis that we talked about the other day. So because these 2 years you have exceptionally high inflation rate. So much so that this number is actually higher than the nominal interest rate. See that. But these other years, it's just the opposite. So if you plot on the graph, okay, this is my last graph. So the blue one is your nominal interest rate and the red one is your inflation rate. So they move in tandem. They move in the same direction. Except for those years that you see the blue line cross below the twin towers. These are the 2 years that you have the oil shock years. And these are the years that you have negative real interest rate. So remember that equation because that equation will be on the test. Okay, are we done? All right, 3:15, very good. Thank you very much and for coming. You have a good week.